This is Micornus Phokane, the leader and the founder of the Young Men Empowerment Forum. I'm here once more today just to really assist you with part 5 of this great topic, that as you grow, there are things that you do. As you grow, things that you do. And I want to embark on this today as we round off this topic and this part 5 of this great topic. And I want you to be aware that as you grow, you sometimes prefer to be silent than to engage in nonsense fights. And I'm sure you've realized that as you grow as a young man, you start to realize that there are fights that you don't need to fight. There are things that you don't need to engage in. You start to see that it's not necessary sometimes to engage in certain debates and certain arguments. And sometimes we argue and waste our time and still not resolve the arguments. We engage ourselves into conflicts sometimes and embark in those, and those end up not even bringing a solution. And sometimes you look at it and say, but why did I really waste my time in this engagement? And I want to emphasize that sometimes it's a waste of time because you were still young. But as you grow, you start to realize that some of the arguments are actually a waste of time. They're actually not leading me anywhere. I'm not actually gaining anything out of this. Now, this is very important for us to mention that, because as a result, you'll realize that you have wasted a lot of energy and resources and your own time as well by actually engaging in some nonsense fights in this world. Now, as a young man, the sign that you're maturing is when you start to choose battles. When you start to see that this I can engage in, this I cannot engage in, this type of individual I can engage in a constructive topic with, but I cannot debate with this one. And I'm sure you've seen as a young man that even in social media, there are some posts that you don't need to engage in. There are those people that post utter nonsense, actually, if I may call it that way. That you may find that these are things that you cannot pollute your good name by engaging in that. There are those people that will even infringe in your own space and come and write things in your timeline. Or you have posted a post, people come and insult you in your own timeline. But as you grow, you realize that you cannot engage in debates with people. And that is why there's a saying that says, don't actually argue with fools, because people may not realize the difference. And I actually subscribe to that, because it's very important for you to look at who do you engage with. What topics do you engage in? What topics do you talk about? Because there are those topics that you don't necessarily need to engage in. They're not actually valuable for you. They're not actually important for you to be engaging in. They're not important for you to be part of those. And I'm emphasizing this because most of us have actually engaged in conflicts that have caused us a lot of harm. And you are harmed by certain conflicts that you didn't even need to engage in. Have you ever realized that even on the roads, sometimes there are road rage, whereby you debate with people on the road, you fight with people on the road, and it's unnecessary most of the time. And you cannot engage with people that are actually coming to try to ruin you. So therefore, there are arguments that you cannot engage with. But it's only when you grow that you start to realize that, you know what, I'm wasting my time. There are times when you raise up your blood pressure, as I say, on the roads, with people that have actually driven you wrong or provoking you by cutting you in and so on, especially those taxi drivers in the morning as you drive to work. And I'm sure you've realized that as a young man, that you may scream and shout, but they will still cut you in anyway. So if you look at it, you'll realize that these are some engagements that I don't need to waste my time in. But you do that as you grow, and you realize that I cannot be engaged in nonsense fights. I cannot be involved in nonsense conflicts, and I cannot involve myself in that. And the more you grow, the more you realize that those are time wasters. And I must emphasize that when you realize what time wasters are in your life, That is a sign of maturity. Because those very same time wasters, like the conflicts that you engage in, if you start to cut yourself off those, you will actually focus much more. Because these things happen to your life, and I'm sure you will realize that, in order to drift you away from your focus. And that is why some of us as young men, we have actually drifted totally away from our own purpose, drifted totally away from our destinies and our direction. It's purely because we engage in silly fights. We engage in these nonsensical conflicts and debates and so on that delays us from focusing on the right things. And that is why I want to say to you as a young man, please, as you grow, guard yourself from being involved in some small fights or conflicts that are nonsensical along the way. Please focus on the journey that you've taken, because some of them are coming there to become really distractors of your life. Don't be distracted easily. Rise up and say, I'm not going to be distracted in this regard. I'm rising up to conquer the situation that I'm faced with, because I'm not going to subject myself to silly fights and conflicts that are not going to help me. But that is only a sign of you growing when you start to realize that. And I'm emphasizing this, that as a young man, please start choosing your battles. Start choosing your fights as well. Don't engage yourself in those nonsense fights along the way. With your friends, with anybody along, wherever you are, at school as well. So there are those fights that you don't need to engage in. And please make sure that you avert yourself from being part of that. I want to end up today with this, that as you grow, your happiness don't depend on people, but on your inner self. I want to speak about this just for a moment before we close, that realize that happiness doesn't come from outside. There's no outside incident that should actually cause you to be happy. Because if you are relying or depending on the outside for you to be happy, you'll be miserable every day. So as you grow, you start realizing that, you know what, joy and happiness must start from within. So in other words, I'm responsible for my own happiness. Nobody is responsible. And as a young man, and I'm sure I want to warn you, because some of you are having girlfriends, some of you are still going to have relationships going forward, and some of you might be married already. So I want you to realize that your partner cannot be the source of your happiness. So therefore, happiness should come from within, whereby you generate your own happiness within. And you are able actually to live in happiness because you've been able to generate happiness from within. Now, when we talk about happiness from within, is the inner man, which is the real you, should actually remain peaceful at all times. And let nothing from outside influence how you feel inside. Let your emotions outside not be influenced by outside the things or the weather outside, because this is going to cause you a lot of heartaches, as we spoke about heartaches earlier. That heartaches may be caused basically by outside environment that we have taken too much concentration on. We are focused on so much that we even forget that our happiness should actually depend on ourselves from internally. And I want to emphasize that, because we are missing out and we're starting to look outside for happiness. And that is why some of the young men look outside for alcohol and drugs in order to make themselves happy. But your happiness should not be dependent on outside things. And as you grow, you start to realize that happiness should be from within me. It must be from my inside. It must be from within me, and I am going to be happy because I want to be happy. It must be a decision that comes from within, that I'm going to remain happy because I want to be happy. And nobody shall infringe my happiness. And nobody shall disturb my peace. And therefore, as a young man, rise up and be happy, because happiness is from within you. And I'm emphasizing this right now because I hope that will help you. And you will, as a young man, realize that you cannot rely from outside happiness. Your friends are not going to bring you happiness. Your relatives are not going to bring you happiness. emotions outside, not going to bring you happiness as well, and not anyone outside. Your happiness should be from within. Not even your partner shall bring you happiness. And I'm emphasizing that it must be happiness from within and generate it from there. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and being part of this great topic. And I hope that you've learned quite a bit. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please click like to our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, Facebook page, Young Men Empowerment Forum, and make sure that you're part of our socials and you will learn out of the topics that we bring upon here, and every video that we post, you will be notified of it and therefore be able to engage. Write your comments as well. We'll be able to respond to. Write our an inbox as well, that if there's anything that you want to clarify with us, and as a young man, we will be able to help you. May the good Lord bless you. Allow me to say cheers for now.